right? If he's expected to lose this fight. He got knocked out in his last fight. He was winning it up until that point and made a mistake and really paid the price for it. And I really like Charles Johnson, by the way. I don't want to take anything away from that victory by any means, because he was tough as hell that fight. And I think that just goes to show at this level, you even when you can hit as clean as Lonnie Kavanagh does, there are dudes that will be able to take it and fire back. And Moreno is one of those people. So.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Combat Talk. As always, I'm your host Sophia, and everybody is asking, who is the next interview? Well, today we sat down with UFC commentator, MMA analyst, the man representing the UK without a doubt, Mr. John Gooden. Now before we get into our video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell so you never, ever miss another episode. But without further ado, let's get into it.
The first thing that I want to get into, you've been commentating for a long time. How I want to get into this and start with this is, what was that introduction to commentating, and what really was it for you that you finally said, maybe I do have a shot at this?
It's so funny when now we're saying that I've been doing this for a long time. One, it makes me feel old. And two, I still feel like this has happened so fast and it's sort of pinched me. In fact, my LinkedIn told me that this is my 12-year anniversary with the UFC alone. So that's kind of cool. So I'll give you a little bit of an extended background because I think it's quite interesting. So in the UK, sports commentators are typically old guys, and I wasn't an old guy when I first started trying to do the commentary. Maybe I am now, but they were old guys that you never really saw on screen, on TV. I think North American sports broadcasting is slightly different to what we have in the UK. And so the sports commentators, they weren't really the cool kids. They weren't people that you necessarily even knew what they looked like. I probably recognized the voice, couldn't pick these people out of a lineup. So I never aspired to be a commentator growing up, but I did like presenters. And I thought it was a really cool job to have the presenting job and go around various different places and have a really interesting life. I was at the BBC early in my sort of post-grad career, if you will, and I tried to get involved in some TV work. Didn't work out, but whilst I was there, they had an internal circular magazine where they advertised some jobs, and they were doing an apprenticeship for sports commentators. And I distinctly remember looking at it going, I don't really want to be a commentator. It's not on screen. It's like the old guys, and yeah, not for me. Fast forward, obviously, some years, and I was at a gym. My coach put on a show. I wanted to do some backstage reporting because someone had come down and done a pretty poor job. I told him I'd like to do that. He said, well, we need some commentary, really. We could start recording DVDs. This is how long ago it was. It's like 2009. We can record the fights, have some lyrics on there, burn it onto a DVD, give it to the fighter, sell it to the fans. So we gave it a go. It was just me with a dictaphone by myself doing amateur fights. Maybe there might have been a couple of early pro fights as well. And that's where it started. Through the research process, I would then visit gyms, train with people. And I then met Graham Boylan, who eventually took over Cage Warriors. He pulled me onto that show. And before I know it, I was working fairly regularly on Cage Warriors, a couple of other shows. And it was something that I really, really enjoyed. And something that I really wanted to do full time, but never thought that that was even a possibility. And then the UFC came along in 2014, and the kind of rest is history.
Now, when we talk about you working with Cage Warriors, a lot of people are nowadays, they're knowing a lot more about Cage Warriors because of so many fighters that come out of there. And a lot of them have ended up in the UFC, or they've ended up on the Contender Series, and they're in the UFC. So when we talk about Cage Warriors for you, how do you think that really prepared you for the UFC?
I will say, and this is no disrespect to Cage Warriors, because they were the next biggest show that was available to me. Let's call it like a European championship. The product, the UFC product, the kind of the production side of it is so complex that I don't know if there was anywhere that I could have gone that could have really prepared me for what I was about to step into. However, obviously, Cage Warriors, high level fights, and we did a little international travel as well. And some of the fighters that were on there were starting to get a pretty big profile and were perhaps watching those contests. So you're getting exposure to various parts of it. But the most important thing is calling the action, is getting to understand how to work with other people, learning from those other people that you're working with, understanding what the promoter wants out of the broadcast, and then, yeah, just finding your own voice. So I'm grateful that Cage Warriors gave me an opportunity on their microphone. And for a few years, that was where I cut my teeth. And I had a lot of fun, learnt a lot.
Wait, before we continue on with the video, I have an exciting announcement. I have officially been sponsored by Hayabusa. You guys can now use my code SOPHIA in all caps on your next purchase. And go check out my awesome storefront to see some of my personal favorites. But anyways, let's get back to the video.
Now, when we talk about that, you know, the UFC, everybody knows fighting for the UFC or commentating for the UFC is a major big deal, and it's a major accomplishment. And you've been doing it for 12 years, and that's an amazing thing. We can all give you your props for that. Now, when we talk about you commentating for the first time in the UFC, what was that first time experience like? Because it's a different atmosphere, no matter if it's a UFC fight night or if it's a pay-per-view. It's still a large crowd. It's still a different atmosphere. The vibe is different. For you, you know, you're alongside a lot of skilled commentators that have been doing it for a long time, and they're very well known. And now you're very well known, as you should be. But for you, what was that first time experience in the UFC like for the first time commentating?
Yeah, the lead up was pretty intimidating. So I'd been in touch with some feedback online about various appearances that I'd had on, what was it, BT Sport beforehand, and I got a little burned. I'm not someone that really wanted to be famous or in the public eye, and I didn't really understand why everyone's just like so passionate about all the different elements of the broadcast, the show. I thought it was all about the athletes, but actually fans have a lot to say about commentary as well, and it does help paint the event and add tones to it. Obviously, if you enjoy it, then it's great. If you don't enjoy the person or the people, then it can really like lessen the enjoyment that you have of a sporting event or a broadcast. So I went in it with a little nerves, like what's this going to be like? And there's some anticipatory anxiety around things. But a couple of things specifically that stick in my mind is we went down to the O2 Arena. This is where my first gig was in London. It's a pretty famous place for us here in the UK. There's like, I think you can get 18,000 in this arena, and it's a big dome. I'd never been there previously to now working in there, and I'm walking around backstage. And if you've ever been backstage in an arena or a hall, there's often like pictures and posters of previous performers, and you've got some of the biggest performers in the world that have been there that have signed these things. And I'm looking around thinking, I'm gonna go to work in this place. That's kind of surreal. And when I walked into the arena, it just felt so big. As I was walking around, and I felt like I was like corkscrewing myself into the floor because I was so insignificant to the space that I'll be working in. So God knows how some fighters feel if they haven't been exposed to big crowds. So that was the first thing. And then the next thing was I prepared really well. It was a pretty bonkers, pretty chaotic lead up because everything was new. We were doing open workouts. I was hosting stuff there. Obviously, there was a bit of attention from media for all parts of what was going on, particularly like Dan Hardy was, it was he and I that were doing the broadcast. He hadn't actually done commentary before, really. So as much as he was well known to the fans, maybe not in that role, and no one knew how he was going to perform there. Obviously, crushed it. But there were a lot of unknowns. Even the team that was working there, they were using a European team. They'd never really done this stuff before either. So just everyone had this kind of nervous energy. And it was like sailing through very choppy waters. just trying to get through it the best I could. Calling the fights is the easy bit. You can't really prepare for it. You say what you see. And I'd been doing that for a few years previous anyway, so I was confident in that part. But it's all the other bits around the commercial breaks and the rankings and the promotional material. They're the bits that are tricky. And then you go live on camera. So this is the really big thing that stuck in my mind. The fans know the broadcast so well. They know all the beats of it. They know what's about to happen. And of course, the main card open is when your commentators stand octagon side, all these lights come on, and then they do the big piece to camera, and they get the audience excited about the fights that are coming in the main card. When I turn round out of my seat, they start covering the table with a big black cloth so you can't see what's underneath it to make it look presentable. I turn around and all of a sudden there's just this crowd of people, like maybe a couple of hundred people, have all just come down to this area like they do on the fighter walkout. They've now just sort of gathered and they've all got their phones out, and the phones have all got like the camera light on them because it's so dark in there. I just remember looking, excuse me, thinking, oh, this is wild. I didn't expect that. But what was very lovely is, I'll say it's because I was stood next to Dan Hardy. Everyone was like, yeah, let's go. Yeah, have a good one. Let's go. Yeah, Dan. Yeah. And maybe maybe one or two of my friends might have been saying something nice about me. But it was a really nice, supportive kind of moment where you're like, oh my God. Oh, people are really interested and excited to hear what we got to say. Then the camera goes live, and then you just do your thing and you get back into the work mode. But I do remember those things, like feeling very small, and then, oh my God, all of these twinkly lights. I didn't expect that, when I thought I was just talking to the people at home.
So we talk about the preparation. A lot of the preparation you do, it's a lot of work. You talk to the fighters in the meetings before. For you, what is that experience like even today? Not even compared to when you first started doing it. That experience, you're talking to the fighter, you're trying to get them to know them more, trying to know more about their fighting style, to know what do they do in the cage, what are their, 3 things that it is their goal to do, and maybe some things that they're really good at that the other fighters should worry about. For you, what are those meetings like, talking to those fighters?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd be looking to speak with the athlete anyway. In actual fact, when I first joined the UFC, they didn't have the fighter meetings, and I asked to have fighter meetings set up for myself, which we had. Then they went away, then they came back. So I'm pleased they came back. But it doesn't make sense to me. I'm a little bit more old school. When I started doing commentary, we didn't have Instagram, didn't have TikTok. Facebook wasn't what it is now. YouTube wasn't what it is now. And I'm talking to amateur fighters. So there's no information. So you have to do what I call proper research, which is talk to someone. So I visit gyms, I call people up anyway. Nowadays, I might send emails, I might DM people. I try and get as many interactions as I can. It's harder with language barriers. But then we're in the hotel. I produce a lot of features as well. So we were talking before we went live. My week has been busy because I've already been on a shoot with Lonnie Kavanagh, who's got a main event in Mexico City. I'm going to see Luke Riley on Tuesday, Lerone Murphy on Wednesday. So I'm already in their lives, if you will, for a short period of time where I can get to see what they're doing and understand who they are. Those meetings are though, all of these interactions just very valuable for me as a commentator, because I'm the mouthpiece. I'm your conduit. If you're the fighter, if you will trust me with your story, I will try my best to tell it in the short amount of time that we've got, perhaps on the walkout, or we might be able to sandwich something in during fight action. But that's hard. I've been caught out trying to tell a story in fight action, and then someone throws their shin at someone's face and then they get knocked out, and I'm like, oh boy, there's me talking about something random, and then they've just got knocked out and we haven't even gotten into anything yet fight wise. But it's just how it is. You can't really account for that in fight sports. And it had this funny thing, didn't it, with Quillan Southfield recently, where he's talking about Nasrat's mother had a bakery or something. Quillan then threw the head kick, knocked Nasrat out. Quillen's now used it, and he's got some sort of tattooed reference on his foot. So it's kind of worked out for both parties. But yes, that's a long way around of telling you that They're very valuable. I really enjoy those meetings, but I would be looking to try and connect with all of these athletes directly anyway.
So when we talk about fighters like Luke Riley, I would kind of want to touch base with him because when I do the predictions, I look deep into their fighting style, different promotions that they've fought for. And when Luke Riley came to the UFC, he was very interesting to me. Kind of when I looked at Paddy Pimblett for the first time, he kind of gave me the vibe of Paddy, and he gave me a little bit of Connor because, he's very out there. He doesn't have a lot of ground game, but I think he's done so well up until this point to the fact that he doesn't really need it. But Luke Riley, he's just such a character. He talks so much, but yet he can back it up in the cage. For you, what was it about Luke Riley that you're like, I need to go talk to him?
Yeah, well, anyone that's making noise, so it's really interesting what happens in certain geographical parts. Connor, obviously, in Ireland, he really knew how to get the fans on board locally. I say this to people like other aspiring broadcasters, and sometimes when I speak to fighters as well. We'll have this over in the UK, for example, where, like with a music act, they'll come up and like they'll do a little bit in the UK. And my goal is to crack America. What we saw with Paddy, what we've seen with Connor is don't worry about the rest of the world. Just get your people to love you. Then that will just resonate and it'll end up kind of just spreading really organically and naturally. And before you know it, the rest of the UK's looking over at Liverpool going, what the hell's going on over there? And who's this guy that everyone's talking about? And then that translates to the US because, of course, now he's on a more international show. And then they look into it and they're like, oh, shit, this guy's got a lot of followers and everyone's shouting about him and he's like interesting looking guy. So that's kind of what happens. And it's sort of repeating itself a little bit with Luke. But you mentioned you have to back it up, right? You can't just be an interesting character, a good-looking guy or gal. Or you have to get the results, and his results have been pretty mental. Like I think he had 2 Fight of the Year contenders in 2025 for Cage Warriors alone. He takes you on a roller coaster, so he does get knocked down, but he comes back, and then he gets an even bigger knockout for himself. And it's just there's a lot of drama attached to it, and people remember those moments. So he takes you on a journey. I personally don't think he's actually that like I don't think he's that outward. I don't think he's an extroverted character. I don't know him really that well yet, and I did actually feel like I already knew Paddy before I met him. So I'm interested to see how it goes on Tuesday because I'll be in the gym and I'll get to spend a little bit more time with him. But he's a little bit more, he's certainly more reserved than Paddy, which is not hard to do, right? So I'm interested to see what I can unlock and discover about him as we build up this feature that we're doing. But yeah, it feels like the UFC believe they're onto something with Luke, which is, a really, really positive signal. They've put him in a co-main event spot when you've got Michael Venom Page and Sam Patterson on the same card, and they haven't taken that position on the main card. So really interesting, and I'm excited to go learn more about his story.
Now, I kind of want to play into that part a little bit. When we talk about you commentating, you're live on camera, you got everybody looking at you. For you mentally, sometimes you're talking to the fighters that fight in that cage, or sometimes you don't even have a conversation, you're just commentating that fight. For you, how much does it take you to like not root for that person? Because honestly, that's kind of like taking your ego aside, maybe. And for you, you get to talk to these fighters and you get to learn more about their story, about what they've been through, about what they're going through in their fight camp, whether they're having a hard weight cut, whether they're going through it mentally. For you, when you're commentating that fight, and you're staring and you're just watching like a piece of art basically happen for you mentally, what are you really seeing that the fans maybe not see?
Well, I don't know if they're not seeing it, but first of all, I think you pull for everyone. I think that's really key. So I'll speak with fighter A and I'll be like, oh my goodness, that is a really compelling story. Then I go and speak to fighter B and I'll be like, oh my God, they've just been through the most like awful experience in their life. I really hope they have a good weekend. Otherwise, what a terrible start to the year it's going to be for them. And then when they come together, like you have to keep in mind the best man or woman has to win. And it's my job to celebrate that. So I keep that front of mind always. It's not hard for me to do that now because I'm there to celebrate the art, the promotion, and the athletes. And I'll always do my best to put the best foot forward for all of those different aspects. So so perhaps to your point about what am I seeing that the fans aren't? Well, I've been around a long time. I've been training a long time as well. So I like to try and help people understand perhaps some of the nuances of the game. I like to use opportunities, as I said previously, to open you up to the individual. Like, who are they? What do they stand for? What are some interesting notes about them that really struck a chord with me? Because if it did with me, it will do with someone else. Maybe not everyone, but someone will be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, he's like plays the piano and the drums and the guitar in his spare time, and that's kind of interesting. So whatever it might be, just got to try and find interesting things to bring through, whilst also celebrating the arts, mixed martial arts, because that's what we're all there to see as well.
Now, you talk about being in this sport, involved in it, training it yourself. For you, a lot of the things that I personally see is you can obviously see the difference between a fan and someone that does the sport when they're talking about maybe how to get a rear naked choke or how to, throw a certain combo. For you, does it really, in your perspective, when you're calling the fight, do you kind of like laugh when you hear the fight fans maybe booing like a certain, like maybe when the fighter's in the clinch and they're fighting off and they have to spin out? To you, what is your reaction when you're hearing that? Because the reactions are really loud by you and you're kind of like, oh, I gotta focus, but this is kind of funny. For you, what is that mentally like for you?
Yeah, it's important to understand that I've got it's I can react to any sights and sounds that people will notice when they're at home as a viewer. So the walkout, if I'm talking all over the walkout when the fans are going absolutely crazy, then maybe I've done a disservice to the fans inside the building. I should just lay out and let the fans be the chorus of that walkout rather than me talking at that point, because that person's just got a much bigger reception than anyone else. For example, a paddy walkout, just see the reaction of the fans, and then the cameras will pick up all of those notes. So I don't want to distract from that. But then, yeah, if there's action and the fans are booing, or like in Paris, the fans start singing a certain song, I might ask the producers to find out what it is they're singing. And we found out in the past it might be the national anthem that they're singing. Sometimes we found out that it's quite a rude and inappropriate. So I say, like, maybe I won't bring that to the attention of the fans. Or maybe I will. Maybe I'll say they are singing something really quite unkind. I can't repeat. Fortunately, the other fighter doesn't understand French, for example. So that could be a little funny note. But I've also got my colleagues with me, the fighters, the ex-pros that can weigh in on these things. But yeah, I think it's play with it. If it's appropriate, as long as you don't discredit anything or take away from anything, you can talk to these things. You'll often hear like DC and Bisping say, these guys are booing in the clinch, but like this is hard. And we might have seen really, really fast paced action. And now these fighters are kind of in a clinch pattern because they're exhausted and they're trying to re-energize before they go again. So that would have been quite a good piece of analysis to get out of the color commentators so that people can understand and go, oh, okay, yeah, we'll let them off the hook a little bit. Yeah, they have given us some action. And yeah, knowing if I tried to run up the stairs 10 times, I'd be pretty breathless too. So, you try and get something out of it that people might be able to understand.
Now, you talk about Bisping in DC. For you obviously we talk about you commentating for the UFC for a long time. For you, who have been the people that if you had questions, or maybe you were like, when I'm commentating, I don't know if this sounds right, or maybe I want to try this and play with some of these ideas. For you, who are those people or person that you go to about commentating that maybe they give you an uplifting message, or they give you a little bit more motivation and positive feedback for you to feel like maybe I can do that on camera?
Um, well, I speak with the production staff about certain things because there might be some bits that I would like to try out or not. So it's the producers first. In terms of those that I work with, there are some of them, some of the men and women that I have a closer relationship than others. I spent a lot of time with Paul Felder, so we trained together as well. And I remember quizzing him about throwing the backhand uppercut and like when is the best place to do this and what are the risks. I've never been able to land it from here. Like what? So I can speak to Paul about certain things and footwork stuff. And then now that I've had that conversation, I can bring it into commentary. So that's good. But I have to go back to the time I spent with Dan Hardy. We had a show called Inside the Octagon, which was an analysis show. We both stood around a screen. We'd break down fights. And that was a really good learning process for me where I'd go away, look at the fights. Dan goes away, looks at the fights. We come together, we discuss it, then we create a TV program out of it. I was bringing like a blue belt mentality or a white belt mentality. He's obviously got the black belt mentality, but that sometimes overlooks as, you know, you train, we can, when we're in it so much, we forget about some of these little fundamentals that are really key to a white belt. And we can be talking at such a level that it just completely goes over the head of someone. So we have to try and fix that and make it appeal. So I think that process that Dan and I went through helped build a show that everyone could get something from, whether it be a novice or an expert. And so, yeah, I'll have to say that. Laura as well. I really enjoy working with Laura, and we will talk about the fights. We will say, perhaps it's better if you speak on those bits, I can speak on that bit, and we'll kind of really work as a team to get through those bits.
Now, when we talk about fighters like Dan Hardy and Paul Felder, they've been through it and they've fought some hard fights. For
Oh,
you,
yeah.
when you commentate with fighters, do you personally think, for you, when you commentate with fighters, especially, some fighters are kind of anxious to do that because their whole career, they're just worried about a fight. They're not worried about constantly talking to the fans and talking about everything that's going on because they're not used to it. For you, when you've worked alongside fighters, what are some of the things that maybe you give them advice about, or maybe that you see from the fighters that you're like, oh, I was shocked that this person could actually do it, or maybe this fighter, I didn't really expect him to see him commentate. For you, what is that? What are you telling these people?
I don't really have many interactions like that. I guess now I'm a little bit deeper into my career. I've gotten to work with some others like Alan Joban and Michael Chiesa. And when we've done Road to UFC stuff, the guys and I will kind of talk about a few things that we enjoyed about the broadcast, or perhaps, you know, we might have done differently. And if they want and have asked for advice, then it'd probably be unkind for me to share here. But I think that Chiesa, yeah, both of the guys actually have said about a couple of things, and I've given them my honest analysis on what I think the UFC would like and what the fans might like from my experience. Because I know sometimes if you've said this, then the fans have reacted online because I don't like hearing about that. Or like, well, probably wouldn't do that. The producers have got this in mind and then we've gone in this direction. So whatever we need to do to make the broadcast as good as possible, it's a team effort. So yeah, if we can all be on the same page and help one another, it's just about getting energy and a rhythm and enjoying it. You know, as when I step into that booth, I just want everyone to have a good time.
Now, I kind of want to play into you doing the sport. So, for me, as someone that competes in jiu-jitsu, one of the biggest motivations of how was Fionn Davies. For you,
Yeah.
you've personally trained with her, and that blows my mind. And I am jealous of that. I have to admit that. For you, what is it like to train with these people that are high level and do the most amazing things in the sport, because Fionn is definitely one of those women that have uplifted a lot of women in the sport and has changed a lot for women in the sport. For her, what was your time with her like?
But specifically with Fionn, yeah, that was yeah. I mean, one thing I love about combat sports, MMA and jiu-jitsu in particular, if it's your thing, like it is our thing, right? What are the chances that you can go and train directly with someone who is a world champion, someone at the very top of the game? I'm an Arsenal fan, a big soccer fan, football fan, I have to say both. There's no chance of me kicking a ball around with Saka, who is one of our star players. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to get anywhere near that field. I'm never going to get near him. He'll have security and all sorts of people that will definitely drive me into the ground and escort me away from him. But we can turn up at an MMA gym. I train with Sam Patterson, who's in the UFC right now. On the come up, I've visited many gyms and I've been in a room with some UFC fighters, Bellator fighters, blah, 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 cage warriors, contenders. And I can maybe offer them something as well, which is great. This is the good thing about martial arts. We all offer a different challenge. You know, we can go with a white belt and learn something. But with Fionn, yeah, I did a little documentary project. So I got to watch her. She was on a mat at a spot called Los Banditos, which right now is home to just ADCC trials winners and ADCC champions and probably not many others. It's just an absolutely ridiculous mat. And I am nowhere near that level. But yeah, stepped onto that mat and got absolutely destroyed. Touched up with Fionn, and I think she hit 4 different submissions on me in a 5-minute round. And it was a pleasure to see the entries, to feel her level of control, skill. For example, I know that you're going to appreciate this, but she's known for her passing game, but her side control was like nothing I've ever felt before. It was so ridiculous. I'm probably 20 kilos heavier than her. I've been grappling for over, I don't know, 15 years, whatever it is. Every little escape, every movement that you might do in side control to try and improve your position, she just shut it down. As soon as my body twitched, she just moved in a tiny little way, which just shut it down. I was like, this is a nightmare. Like, how is this 60-kilo person just completely shutting down anything that I've got? So it was really, really interesting. And I've been lucky enough to now train under Fionn. She's a head coach down at a gym called Armour BJJ, which is a really cool jiu-jitsu spot in London. I go down there fairly infrequently. It takes me about 2 hours to get there. So I go down there and I've been in Fionn sessions, and she's such a good coach. The way that she articulates technique, and of course she's so high level, the details that she's picking out, I'm like, oh my God, how have I not seen this before? So there's been a couple of like light bulb moments just being in the class, learning from her as well. So yeah, I'm really grateful that the universe kind of put us together. So she's definitely going to help me improve my game.
She is a champion for a reason too. I mean, just the level that she's at and the people that she's beating also too. But when we talk about, you've been training with MMA fighters for a long time. For you, when you step back from the commentating and you go and train with these guys or women, what does it personally feel like to train with MMA fighters? Do you feel maybe like, I get to step out of my element, I get to take a break from everything, go with them? It might be difficult rounds and they might beat me really bad because they are such high level and really good. But for you, what is that experience like to train with these guys and especially go at them with them?
Yeah, it's a privilege, right? Things are different now though, and I really struggle these days because I'm older. I'm going to be 48 in about a week or so, and as much as I don't probably feel it, I can't do the things that I used to do, and I'm now in a position that I would love to have been in 20 years ago when I was first starting in MMA. Back then, I probably would have be able to offer them at least different levels of energy and recovery. Now, as much as I don't set out rounds in jiu-jitsu, I couldn't do 5 to 10 straight rounds of MMA now. It just wouldn't happen. And I actually have stopped sparring MMA. I've been getting I've been in competitive sports for 40 years now, so I've taken a few licks over the years. So it's probably not sensible, but it's just a privilege, and the game's moved on so much. The amateurs, the young kids coming through now, the things that they can do, it just blows me away. So yeah, I'm on my own journey. I take all of these moments that I get as an opportunity for learning and to indulge in my passion. This is what people probably don't understand it so much, but why would you step in the cage with someone from this gym? And I'm like, but that's because that's what I've been doing. I stepped on the judo mat 40 years ago for the first time. So why wouldn't I take it? Just does. I find it hard to understand why I wouldn't. The only thing now is the risk of injury with my work. So when I'm on the road, probably not a good idea to do MMA rounds if I've got to be on camera in a couple of days. But yeah, I just enjoy it. I'm very blessed to be in this position. The job role, the job title gives me access to incredible people. So yeah, just got to have fun with it.
Now, I love hearing that because that's how I started. Like I started at such a young age, but all I had was training with adult men. So I would spar with the guys that was always fighting. And when I was supposed to fight for the first time, and it was due to cancellation that I didn't fight, but I just love that chaos feeling. I love that feeling of knowing this is what I was meant to do. And I
Yeah.
think that's why when I started doing my podcast and everything, I took the same mentality that I have for competing in jiu-jitsu and doing MMA into it because I would talk like we were talking before the interview, having the opportunity to talk to some of these people, whether they're commentators, they're fighters, they're ring announcers, they have stories and they've been through a lot. And a lot of the stories that I haven't shared on camera is unbelievable. And it's amazing to see what they're able to do through fighting. But one of the last questions I want to ask you is we talked about Lanier Kavanaugh. For you, what do you see for this fight against Brandon Moreno? You know, Lanier is coming in as a replacement for this
Mm,
fight. So, and Brandon Moreno is not someone to just be like, yeah, he's going to easily beat him. He's a
yeah.
tough opponent, and especially for the age that Brandon is at and the things that he's been accomplished. I mean, he's a former champ. For you, you know, you're going to talk to Lanier Kavanaugh, but in your perspective right now, before you meet him, what do you really see happening for this fight? What do you see that maybe Lanier should take with a grain of salt and say, "Oh, maybe I should take this into consideration"?
Well, well, the big thing for me was the short notice, the altitude, and the level of opposition. So they're the things. Obviously, I'm not sharing anything here that no one else has thought about. They're the big things. But when you watch Lonnie, it's all upside, right? If he's expected to lose this fight, he's he got knocked out in his last fight. He was winning it up until that point and made a mistake and really paid the price for it. And I really like Charles Johnson, by the way. I don't want to take anything away from that victory by any means, because he was tough as hell that fight. And I think that just goes to show at this level, you even when you can hit as clean as Lonnie Kavanagh does, there are dudes that will be able to take it and fire back. And Moreno is one of those people. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he approaches this. The altitude thing, I've heard horror stories from people. We've seen, we've seen fighters get really badly affected by it. He, excuse me, he hasn't physically got the ability to be out there for 4 weeks prior to the fight. I think he's going out there today, actually. That is as close as he could do to get his medicals done, to be annoyed by me for 2 days. And, I was also very, had empathy around he's got a lot to try and fit in. And now, as a UFC camera crew's on your doorstep, like pointing the camera at you, where you've got some serious work to do. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very, very tall order. But when you watch his fights, he does stuff that not everyone can do. He's so dynamic. He's clearly very powerful. Not not everyone can land a knockout blow at 125 pounds. He definitely can. So let's see how it stands up. It's going to be an incredible experience for him. He's still so young. He's in his 20s. So win, lose or draw, he's going to take a lot from this. But of course, he believes that he can do it. he's wanted these opportunities. He went on record to say that he's going to become a champion within 2 years of joining the organization. Let's see what you got, kid. You know, you beat Moreno. That could very well happen.
Now, I agree with you. It's a matter of, is he going to regain his conscience, and is he going to regain the mental game and keep moving forward and go into this next fight positive and mentally ready? And I had said that about Sean O'Malley before he fought Song, because when I personally watched him fight Murad, at the Sphere, you could see his mental was off. He's looking everywhere. He's not really noticing what's going on in the cage. He's not focusing on the cage, which I think, as someone that trains and does the sport, that's where my brain goes to see if the fighter has it mentally. But one of the last things that I'm going to touch on with you is Tom Aspinall. He's hurt right now. He's under his 8th surgery at this point. For you, who do you really think is for the interim champ for heavyweight division right now?
What? Say that again. What do you mean?
So Tom Aspinall is not fighting right now. They're talking
Right.
about maybe vacating the title for him because he's going to be out
Okay.
for a while. For an interim champion, who do you see it going to, or what do you see happening for a fight-wise for that?
I haven't heard that they were talking about him. I think vacating. I don't know if that's a fan thing rather than a UFC thing. So I don't really want to put that out into the universe. I understand why there might be some people talking about it, but Tom's had it really rough. After that knee injury and then coming back, and then in his mind probably righting a wrong by beating Curtis. And then he did all the right things, stepping up and then waiting for the John Jones fight, and then that not happening while he's just sitting there going, guys, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I want to stay active. I want to fight. I want to show him the best. So I'd feel dirty inside to kind of say right now, yeah, let's cast Tom aside and let the division move on, because he was made to wait. There's not loads going on though, is there? Let's be frank. It's not like it's bubbling hot in the heavyweight division. Of course, any conversation around what happens next has to involve the name Cyril Gane. I have a feeling there seems to be a certain John Jones and Alex Pereira that have been talking to one another, but then we hear about some health issues that Jones may or may not have. So I don't know how likely that is. But yeah, for me, if there is whatever happens next in the heavyweight division at the very top, it's got to involve Cyril Gane. And I really, really hope and pray it also involves Tom Aspinall.
No, I agree with you. Tom has been going through a lot. I remember watching his knee injury live, and it like shocked me because when you see it live, it's just one of those moments that you're like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah.
And freak accidents happen in this sport. It's just natural. But for someone like Tom Aspinall to go through such long injuries and painful injuries, and to have as much surgeries as he's had, I would hate to see him to lose the title. I would hate that, because he is a good fighter and he deserves to be champ. But the last thing I want to touch on is, you've been doing this for a while. You've commentated for the UFC for so many different events, and I wish I could be there at those events because it's amazing for that experience. But for you, when someone that's young, that's getting into broadcasting, that's getting into commentating, or maybe they're going to school for it, or they're just genuinely interested in what you do, what is the advice you give them?
Well, I keep going back to one quick sentence, and that is work hard and don't be a dick. And what I mean by that is just get your head down and really put all of your effort into whatever aspect of it is that you are looking to achieve. And whilst you're going through the motions, just be good to people. Try not to upset people. As long as you are a good person, I think that will serve you well, because I've seen people that have definitely got more talent than I have, higher skilled, but they perhaps weren't so easy to work with, so they didn't get those opportunities. So that's one thing. It's interesting that you bring this up, because I'm currently kind of developing a broadcasting academy and a syllabus. I didn't go to school for this, and I don't think you necessarily need to. I'm not saying that people should quit their media college and try and do it another way, but I got into this through martial arts itself, and then a genuine interest, and later a passion for broadcasting. And I enjoy this craft so much, but it was a lot about going out and finding opportunities to practice. You said something which really connected with me a little bit earlier, and you said I approach things like I do a fight. It might sound weird to some people because I don't have a great big fight record, but certainly in the beginning, I approached every commentary commentary assignment like it was a fight camp. Shut myself off from everyone, ate really clean. I definitely wouldn't be drinking, and I would just dive into the research. And that was what I would be training at, and getting ready for this date. So I saw a lot of parallels between what a fighter was looking at with their schedule and what I was looking at with my schedule. Not what we were going through, by the way, because I understand that getting punched and kicked is a lot more difficult than sitting and staring at a screen. But yes, I had that kind of mindset, and that's how I would look at things. So yeah, get involved in the sport, whatever sport it is. Get involved in that local area. Going back to what I was saying about Paddy and really cracking Liverpool before anything else. So see what's going on around you. Offer your time up. It probably will be for free. It was for me for a long time. Actually cost me a little bit of money to even get to the point of where, I was working for the UFC. I had to take so much time off beforehand. And try different things as well. You might want to do commentary, but then you'll find actually I really enjoy stage managing or whatever it might be. So just keep an open mind and do different things for the sport. Be of service. It's not about you. Enjoy the journey, and hopefully something positive will come out of it.
Well, I appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy man. You're flying all over the place. You're doing so many different events, and I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see how students can learn from you and how many people can learn from your experience. And I'm very grateful to even talk to you and have your time.
It's been fun. I appreciate it.
Well, I do my best. I got to try my best to get, I got to play hard and I got to get my job done and talk to people like you. And my main thing with the podcast, and I really haven't said it on camera, and I'm very honest about everything. I don't fake anything. And my thing is, I love interviewing people like you, the commentators, the ring announcers, the fighters. No matter if you're amateur level or you're working for the UFC or you're fighting for the UFC, everybody has a story. Everybody has a journey to where they've gotten to. And to know more about that is very important to me. Because, I went so long without interviewing before, and to now have that platform, just a little small platform, to be able to do it is beyond me. And I'm very grateful for it. So I'm grateful for your time, and thank you so much for this.
Well, here's something. I was probably something like 28 or 29 before I probably had a recorded interview with a fighter. So you are so far ahead of where I was. So I'm sure you will have a long and successful career in this and whatever it is you're looking to do. You're going after it. You're not shy in coming forward and getting these interviews and things like that. So good luck to you. Absolutely. And of course, if I can help out in any way, just let me know.
Hey everybody, I hoped you guys have enjoyed the interview. Remember to go follow all of John's socials, and remember to like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell so you never, ever miss another episode. As always, I'm your host, Sophia, and I will see you guys next time.
Music licensing reimagined.